Hey everyone, what up? Matt Kaiser here. Now, I'm pretty sure you might not know about this, but I do like me sometimes a good old Warriors Muso game. Now, these games are pretty much known for having the whole typical 1 vs 1000 type of combat, where it's all real-time hack and slash, character action kind of thing. And you've seen those appear in from the Dynasty Warriors series to Warriors Orochi to Samurai Warriors. But also you mainly see them, most notably, onto licensed other things, like say The Legend of Zelda with both Hyrule Warriors and Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, as well as Fire Emblem Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes, and of course both Persona 5 Strikers and Fate Samurai Remnant. But obviously I want to figure out what JRPGs could potentially have or deserve at least a Warrior spin-off, as I think there's just some pretty neat ideas all around. So in this video, I decided to list down my top 5 JRPG series that I think deserves at least a Warrior spin-off. But before we begin, if you like what you're seeing here, then by all means, like the video, click the subscribe button if you're new, and hit that bell notification icon if you want more RPG content from yours truly. Not only that, but I'm also aiming to do my long-awaited 750 subscriber special for Persona 5 Royal. So hopefully by this year's end, I'll be able to deliver such an amazing review. So please do look forward to that. And with that said, here's my top 5, starting off with the Atelier series. Now this one is probably the most random idea I could have ever think of, and something that definitely on paper would make absolutely no sense, but I think would actually be both funny and pretty much interesting. Now, Koei Tecmo has had a long partnership and relationship with both Gust, that makes the Atelier series, as well as Omega Force, that make pretty much every Muso game they've ever known. So I think eventually, hand in hand, that having an Atelier Warriors game would actually be a fun, interesting spin-off. Now obviously, it would be quite weird to have an Atelier Warriors game, as Atelier games are more for a comfy and cozy experience, though you could still have that, but still have pretty interesting combat. Now, technically speaking, we did have an Atelier Warriors sort of game, with Warrior All-Stars, where it had a bunch of characters from Koei Tecmo's lineup, including Atelier, like say Sophie and Plachta from Atelier Sophie, which is the game I'm actually currently playing, Atelier Sophie. So do look forward to that review, but I'm back on track. So I think with this game, what they could do with Atelier Warriors is basically have a full-on crossover with all the Atelier series, from the original Salzburg trilogy, to things like, say, the Arlen trilogy, the Dusk trilogy, the Mysterious trilogy, and the Secret trilogy, aka the Pfizer trilogy. And it could be just 3 sets of characters from each saga, you have obviously the main protagonists, like say Marie, Ellie, Judy, as well as also Verona, Ferris, Sophie, Ryza, Aisha, Eska, and Logi, that kind of sort of stuff. And as for combat, it could pretty much be, basically a full-on combat, having just full-on real-time action moves and kill multiple enemies of Punies, but also have an Atelier crafting aspect where you can go to your Atelier and gather up items on the battlefield, or even exploration, something sort of similar to Fate Samurai Remnant's exploration, where you just explore around, you collect nearby items, and occasionally you'll find some monsters that you need to kill. And once you do that, you can go back to your Atelier and start crafting in your Atelier, and that could be used for weapons for battle, or just items that will progress the story. And personally speaking, I think a crossover aspect, something akin to even the mobile game Atelier Resolana. I have no idea. I'm just going to call it the Atelier mobile game. I can't pronounce that name. would be an ideal situation. So while I don't think it will be happening anytime soon, it will be something very funny to have. Also, millions of barrels will be amazing for an attack. My next pick would have to be the Trail series. Now, the Trail series is best famed for its very long-running, overarching, interconnected story, with lots of them having just fantastic world building, lore, and just amazing plot details that can get you so invested into the world of Zemilia. But having said that, there hasn't been that much material to expand upon some plot points, especially on historic key events that sound interesting but only get briefly mentioned through flashbacks or just exposition. And aside from some spin-offs like say Naruto Boundless Trails, but even that game is technically disconnected from the whole Trails series. And I guess we can also mention the Northern War anime, but well, that anime sucks balls, it really does. So I do think that there should be at least a Trails spin-off that will at least expand one aspect of the lore. And this wasn't an idea that actually even my good friend Colin Lack came up with, though his was more about a Trails tactical spin-off featuring the War of the Lion story. Now, I'll give a brief summary about the War of the Lions thing, but not too much to spoil it if you haven't played Trails of Cold Steel 1, 2, 3, and 4, as well as even the Trails to Azure. And it mainly revolves around, the War of the Lions, including Emperor Drycles, Saint Lilian, as well as Crimson Rosalia. Now, aside from that brief synopsis about this, what I mainly think could work well with a Trails Warriors game is having, of course, basically a tactical style of combat really that would suit it well, obviously capturing enemies. But they could also take some liberties and key aspects from the Trails for Daybreak combat system by having casting odds in real time, having combo crafts, that kind of thing, and of course their own S crafts. And honestly, I would just let Falcom use their idea to expand on what we could see on what the actual War of the Lions look like, cause I think that's a really cool detail. Obviously, this might not do as much in terms of sales because obviously this is something I can only see Trails fans, only hardcore Trails fans would digest as opposed to being new to the franchise. But even still, I will be up for a Trails Warriors game even though I don't see it happening anytime soon whatsoever, but hey, a man can dream. And speaking of long-running overarching stories, we move on to Kingdom Hearts. Now, the Kingdom Hearts series is known for having, very experimental gameplay styles in much of their bridge titles. Obviously, things like Chain of Memories having a card-based combat style, as well as things like, say, Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance having the Command Deck style, and also other things like, say, the Dream Eaters and the D-Links. And then you even have Recoded and Memory of Melody, with the former having different bunch of gameplay styles, including a rail shooter, a platformer, and a turn-based one, as for Memory of Melody, which was a rhythm game. So given that pretty much there's gonna be lots of avenues for Kingdom Hearts bridge titles to, go through, maybe a fighting game, maybe a racing game, I do think a Warriors game for Kingdom Hearts could work. And sort of we had a similar aspect to it with the whole 1000 Heartless battle in Kingdom Hearts 2 and the 10,000 Heartless unversed Noboys battle in Kingdom Hearts 3. And honestly, I think this would also be a good thing for say a prequel of some kind, something that will be sort of how Missing Link, Union Cross and Dark Road were where it will give us an interesting combat style but also give some more lore to the story. And to be honest, outside of Memory of Melody, we really do need another KH console bridge game, at least even though Kingdom Hearts 4 is coming hopefully soon. Obviously we do need something to fill the gap before the next major Kingdom Hearts title So having much more of the bridge titles again would be super cool. And I think a Kingdom Hearts Warrior style will be really cool. Obviously, who knows on what the story could be. It could be something about Mickey going to Scarlet at Kylam, or maybe even something involving around, the foretellers or the other ancient Keybladers or whatnot. And the combat could be just similar to on how Sora could have elements like obviously have your Kingdom Hearts magic, as well as cool combos and whatnot, as well as taking down multiple waves of Heartless and having just interesting Disney worlds to even explore to, because a lot of the aspects of Kingdom Hearts games is the Disney world, so it'll be interesting to see what the environment will look like and the types of enemies you get to face. Obviously, I know that the Musou combat isn't up to snuff compared to the mainline Kingdom Hearts games, but even then, it being decently serviceable and on par with the bridge titles, that would be an interesting idea in my opinion. So please, hopefully Square Enix, you work with Koei Tecmo once again and give us a Kingdom Hearts Warriors game, cause I would be down for that actually. And I'm not done with Square Enix and Koei Tecmo, because the next one would have to be a Final Fantasy Warriors game, especially if it's Dissidia Final Fantasy Warriors. Now, the Dissidia series has been relatively dormant as of recently, as obviously we know that the fact that, the last major entry in the Dissidia series, known as Dissidia NT, which was actually a collaboration also with Square Enix and Koei Tecmo, but with Team Ninja, didn't do that great and unfortunately was shut down entirely. And also the fact that, the mobile game, Dissidia Opera Omnia, also shut down recently, meaning that outside of course, the other two games on the PSP are still trapped on there, it does seem that the Dissidia series is currently dead at this moment. So what better way to revive it is by doing sort of a Dissidia Final Fantasy crossover, giving things like on how Fire Emblem Warriors did so well, and even Square Enix also did one for Dragon Quest with Dragon Quest Heroes, and those games were pretty cool from what I heard. So having one where you just cross over with, the main characters from each Final Fantasy game, like say Cloud, Zidane, Clive, Lightning, Squall, Cecil, Terra, Warrior of Light, all of those even against the villains, will be pretty cool. And they could even have some key elements from the Dissidia series, like the bravery system, is that what you call it? As well as obviously having your limit breaks and your finishing moves and all those cool things, and you can just take down multiple enemies and face of course against classic Final Fantasy bosses and villains. And heck, you can even do the same thing for having a villain mode where you get to play as the villains themselves to keep that Dissidia thing going fresh. And honestly, I think that's a pretty cool aspect. Obviously, they can even have some cool online modes, a cool history mode for Final Fantasy veterans, all of which including, badass remixes of classic Final Fantasy games. Music would be such an absolute treat. And honestly, I'm surprised they haven't done it so well, especially given the fact that it would also be good for say something like the Nintendo Switch, since Square Enix is a bit wishy-washy with Final Fantasy on the Switch, mainly releasing the older Final Fantasy games and obviously Crisis Core Reunion, but other than that they haven't put much thought into it for Final Fantasy outside of Crystal Chronicles and World of Final Fantasy. And honestly, given that Final Fantasy anniversary titles are sort of big celebratory titles like say World of Final Fantasy and even Stranger of Paradise, I think the next one will be a Dissidia Warriors fighting game, a Dissidia Warriors Final Fantasy game will be a cool treat. That'll be just absolutely awesome in my opinion. And if you can already tell by the thumbnail, you would know what my number one pick is, and that would be Xenoblade Chronicles. Now this is given the fact that mainly because Nintendo often likes to do a collab with Koei Tecmo to do a Warriors spin-off, as we've seen the cases for games like, say, Zelda with Hyrule Warriors and Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, as well as also Fire Emblem with both Fire Emblem Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes. So doing one for Xenoblade would be a cool thing, especially since the combat in a Warriors game and Xenoblade Chronicles is far different than what we know, obviously. And given the fact that Xenoblade has recently done well as a success, especially within the Switch era, with releases of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Xenoblade Chronicles Torn of the Golden Country, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and Xenoblade Chronicles Future Redeemed, as well as also having Pyra and Mythra from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 also in Smash, on top of also having the return of Shulk from Super Smash, I think 4 was it, onto obviously also Ultimate as well. So given that Xenoblade has been a recent success, and given that Monolith Soft are already cooking with probably a brand new IP, or maybe even something like Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, or maybe even still cooking for Xenoblade Chronicles 4, will be a good leeway to keep Xenoblade fans interested by having a Warriors spin-off. Now obviously there's some videos talking about the possibilities of one and what they could do, and basically my ideal version is just to have like a big full-on crossover of all the mainline games, maybe even have some representation for Xenoblade Chronicles X even. Like, having the Xenoblade Chronicles 1 cast with Shulk and his gang, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 with Rex, as well as Xenoblade Chronicles 3 with Noah and his Ouroboros, as well as even like some of the villains like the Torna gang, as well as the Mobius, as well as the Mechon, and they can just like have pretty cool features that can play around, like mainly with Xenoblade Chronicles 1, where they can play around with just having their base set fighter style moves, like Shulk can have some special moves, especially with the Monado, as well as maybe even with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, they can play around with Rex and Pyra being switchable and having their own each unique movesets and switching between them. As well as Xenoblade Chronicles 3, you can have, the class system, like they can play around and customize something akin to like say Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes on how they can like change class units for your main party, which will be a cool thing. And obviously you can like explore around through like past Xenoblade areas, like from the Bionis and Mechonis to Orest to Ionios to even Mira. That would be really cool. And you can even incorporate even like some other prior Xeno characters if the licensing is possible with characters like say Cosmos from Xenosaga, since they already did that for Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and made her a blade. So honestly that would be my dream pick, as honestly I think many Xenoblade fans would love to see just playing around these characters in cool warrior style combat, taking down thousands of enemies. Could you imagine playing as someone like Morag, and she can just duke out millions of enemies with her own cool flame whip swords with Bridget? That would be so much cool. And that would have to be in my list of what I think are top 5 JRPGs that deserve at least a Warrior spin-off. So anyway guys, let me know down in the comments of what JRPGs you think should deserve at least a Warrior spin-off. Until then, Mad Kaiser out.